Alright, everybody, welcome to the first edition of Weather News. Today we're going to cover quite a few different things. This, being the first video of this channel, essentially what I want to create out of this is the ability for people to get the information they need about climate engineering, weather modification, and all the various programs associated with that. So I'm assuming that most people who are going to be starting to watch this channel are not going to be familiar or maybe somewhat familiar, so we'll start from the basis. So, weather modification and climate engineering, what is it? Okay, so climate engineering, weather modification is essentially programs that are designed to alter the weather in some ways. Now, this website we're looking at here, Weather Modification History, has a lot of very good information about the history of weather modification. Okay, so it goes back as far as the 1800s and the very first rain making experiments where they would drop dry ice or other various elements into the clouds to produce rain, produce snow. This one is a great one, I like it, where it says producing rain with X-rays. And that's correct. They are able to produce rain by broadcasting different frequencies, microwaves, radios, X-rays, to be able to create different clouds to make it rain, to not make it rain. And so that's one of the primary programs that is used for weather modification and climate engineering. Here you can see an article called Weather Control, and this is from January 1928. So you can see this has been something that's been in production for a long time. If you go up through the 40s and 50s, you see that there is a lot of rain-making, snow-making experiments. The 60s is when the electronic weather control begins, where they start using radar and microwave frequencies aimed at various places in the sky via ground-based radars to be able to do this. So there's a lot to discuss, there's a lot to go over, but essentially that's what this channel is all about, is exposing and hopefully at some point halting these programs because of, as we'll discuss, the destruction that they cause. So here they talk about vapor trails, weather control experiments, being able to remove contrails from planes. So, you see planes flying in the sky, you say that's a contrail. It's certainly not a contrail because that has not been necessary for a long time. The very first hurricane modification experiments where they would drop silver iodide into the clouds, which would create or would actually destroy the hurricane. Project Storm Fury. Here you can see some of the very first trails that were produced. These are not contrails. These are actually various forms of geoengineering, and we'll go into all of that. Of course, this is just the first video. Here's another site. So that was weathermodificationhistory.com. Here's geoengineeringwatch.com, another great site. A lot of information about solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injection. And for those who aren't familiar with those terms, essentially what it is the ability to inject particles into the atmosphere to reflect sunlight or to steer storms. And, a lot of people refer to these things as chemtrails, but chemtrails is a conspiracy theory, and this channel is not about conspiracy theory. I am simply here to talk about the truth, to talk about climate engineering and weather modification. Are there conspiracy theories? I'm sure, but that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm here to. That's not what this channel is about. I'm here just to solely discuss weather modification, climate engineering, and the effect that these programs that are ongoing and have been for decades are affecting the planet. Okay? So let's see. Okay, let's go jump right into the radars. So, weather across the United States today is mostly clear. There's some Activity down here off the coast of Texas and the Gulf. There's a little bit here in Florida, as you can see, a couple precipitation areas right off the coast. But generally today is very clear. So for those who have never seen this before, this is a level 2 NEXRAD radar screen. Level 2 being raw data. We're not looking at what the weatherman normally shows you, which is a filtered radar that doesn't include all of the background information and the interactions that you can see between the radars and the clouds. So this is a part of the NEXRAD system. The NEXRAD radars are a huge part of weather control, as well as, of course, detecting precipitation. They're capable of modifying the weather. Here's a few pictures of what they look like. They look like a standard radar. However, they're powered by a 700,000 watt Clystron device, which is an electromagnetic frequency generator. And, it basically broadcasts high-powered microwaves into the sky to be able to modify the weather. It has a whole range of different effects through microwave broadcasts and frequency generation that it's able to create and divert storms. Very powerful system developed in 1988. So that was when this whole program of electronic weather control began. I can show you an article here if I know it's hard to believe some of this, but back in the 1960s here, there was a news article specifically about the technology of radio and microwaves aimed into the sky to be able to influence the weather. Let's see, is it this one? Efforts to control weather may create problems. Yeah, no kidding. Let's see, what else do we got? Weather attempts. What's this one? Well, here's one about Project Storm Fury. Weather patterns. Electronic weather control. Let's see. That's the one I'm looking for. No one's here somewhere. Okay. Well, you can find it. Essentially, it's called Electronic Weather Control. It's by a magazine that dealt with, I think it was called Radio Electronics. And it talked about the development of radio frequency, microwave frequency devices that are capable of modifying the weather by blasting these waves into the sky. Okay, so you can see some of the effects of that. Here's a good example in Sacramento. Today is a completely dry day, no precipitation, no clouds, clear day. And if you were to look at the mainstream media or any mainstream radar source, WeatherBug, weather.com, anything like that, you're not going to see the detail you're going to see here. It would just be clear. You wouldn't see green or blue or yellow or anything. But this is the actual radar bouncing off of various. This is a mountain range, or Mount Diablo is here. This is California, by the way, Sacramento. This mountain range is Sierra Nevada. You can see the way that these waves propagate, how they reflect off of any physical structures, and just the various ways that the waves interact with things around them. So while we're waiting for that to load here, let's see, there we go. So you can see that the broadcast is beginning. Here's Mount Diablo, here's Sacramento. The radar is very powered up. You can see the reflections, various beams going in different directions here. And once again, this is not something you're going to find on a normal radar view, like on weather.com, because they don't show the details of how these radars actually work, the different frequencies they use, how powerful they really are, and how capable they are of directing weather storms. So today's not a great day to demonstrate that. You can see it's quiet. It's a good day to show what it looks like when the radars are not powered on. You don't see any blue or white or gray dots. It's just clear, except for over here on the east coast. It looks like they're trying to steer some moisture on the east coast, which if we go to the NASA world view here, we can really get a view of that. Okay, so let's start on the west coast. This is today, March 16th, and it's clear, you know? So you can see that radar was broadcasting. Clearly, there's no precipitation for it to detect. It's attempting weather control. Here you can see this is some normal cloud formations, evaporation. Here's some stratospheric aerosol injection. That's what we're going to call it because that's what it is. These are airplanes that are cloud seeding. They are dropping various materials either in the jet fuel or through different nozzles, and there's plenty of US patents that describe these processes and that describe the nozzles themselves that are attached to the aircraft to be able to disperse this material, which allows them to modify the weather. Now, I'll go into all that detail. You know, if you're not getting this all at once, it's a lot of information. I'm going to cover it all many times, and we're going to go over it a lot. So here, I'm just trying to demonstrate as much as I can. So, as you can see up here, these are aerosols. So heavy aerosols off of the west coast, northeast. You can see they use different patterns. It's an X pattern here. If we get the layer, let's change the layer. Now you can really see it. X pattern. There's two X's. Actually, it's a crosshatch pattern. An X, an X, an X, an X. Those are pretty common. I actually saw one of these myself over Arizona. What that does is that kind of tells the pilots and the drones that are operating these fleets to know where to disperse aerosols. Okay? You can clearly see the difference in the reflectance. Here's what a normal cloud reflectance looks like. Regular evaporation from the ocean. And here is what a dispersed aerosol well, I guess they call it a contrail. It's much more than that. That creates these massive cloud formations that cover the sky. Those are aerosol dispersions. And that is what's going on. So clearly what's happening here is the moisture is being diverted north. There's probably a pressure system that's driving this. We can go ahead and take a look at the pressure systems here real quick. What's that? Hold on. Alright, well I guess we'll do this instead. We're going to go over the forecast model. So this is the precipitation forecast model for the next 14 days. And here we go, through the 16th, high pressure building over the Midwest. Looks like there's a low pressure system beginning to come on here off of the west coast. There it is, and this is on the 20th. 20th still. Looks like a weak system, light rain, maybe some light snow in the Sierra Nevada. Then as we go on here, looks like the low pressure system moves over Nevada and dissipates. Creates some rain and snow in the mountains in Nevada and Utah. Okay, now here's the 22nd. It's a little bit more powerful system here coming in for Northern California, Southern Oregon, and Washington, as well as the Midwest, mid-Texas area, center of Texas. Quite a bit of rain here. Nothing that looks like serious, except for maybe in Northern California there's a spot there that may be kind of serious, but in general it looks like it's a light rain and snow event. Lots of snow for Sierra Nevada on this one, though. Some mix, potentially snow the uh, in Nevada as well. And once again, Northern California, another snow event on the 25th as it moves through. Okay, then the Northwest gets hit here on the 27th. Lots of snow in the Northwest. Another little system moves through at the end of the month, and that's about it. Okay, so this might be a problem here for the South. Tornado threat, potentially heavy rains in East Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Minnesota a little bit. So yeah, that's what it's looking like forecast wise.